Hi guys, it's Sports Psych time. I'm back and we're going to be talking about Chapter 10 today on Team Cohesion. And I am on location in Fairhaven, New York. We are now looking at the Little Sodas Bay. Okay, and why am I here in terms of the Little Sodas Bay? Because right behind me is where the Oswego State crew team trains, okay, or has trained. Okay, so and there's a reason I'm going to be talking about, crew in a second. One thing before I get into team cohesion, there were a couple of things I forgot to mention in terms of aggression. One thing was, another type of way of measuring aggression I mentioned on the PowerPoint's archival research. All that means is that you go to the records that, are existing. So if you want to know if there is more fighting in the later periods of hockey, you don't have to stand there and watch the game. You just go to the records, see how many, penalty minutes for fighting or how many fights occurred in the first period, second period, and third period, or of overtime of any particular game. All of those records exist. Okay, so you don't actually have to watch, the game in order to get those records. So that's all I meant by archival research. Okay. The other example is that I gave you in the book is that, is there an increase in aggression when the temperature gets hotter? One piece of research that spoke to that was that, hit by pitches in baseball increased as the temperature increased, at least up to a point, up to 90 degrees. Okay. What that suggests is that, a hit by a pitch would be, what they were using as a measure of aggression. Okay. And therefore, if the temperature got hotter, then the pitchers were more likely to be aggressive in that sense and hit the batter. Okay. But again, you don't have to watch that. You can just get those from the existing records. All right. The other thing that I didn't, mention in, I think I'll probably talk about, I'll probably make this one of the essay questions on the final is UFC, excuse me, and, boxing we talked about, those are, sports that are involved in aggression, right? I mean, the point of it is to try and, beat the other person, to they're knocked out. Okay. But what's interesting about this, and you can debate this amongst yourselves, or mold this in your heads. What type of aggression is that? Okay, is it instrumental? Is it hostile? Okay, so think about where that might, or you may even think sport assertiveness. Okay, given the nature of the sport. Okay, so can you classify things like MMA, UFC, and boxing into one of these aggression categories? Okay, the other thing that I left you with was the idea of trash talking. Does trash talking fall into one of these categories of aggression? Sport assertiveness, instrumental, hostile. And you may make a case that it could fit into any one of these depending on the nature of the trash talk, and what is being said, the situation in which it is being said in. Okay, so think about that. Like I said, I'm going to make that one of the essay questions. Something along those lines. Where would you fit these type of examples of sport incidences, and would it fit into assertiveness or one of the two different types of aggression, or again one of the overlaps? All right, so that wraps up the chapter on aggression. I do want to move to team cohesion, again, chapter 10. One of the main things about cohesion is, the type of sport is going to play a role in how important team cohesion is in that particular sport. So we have what's known as coactive, interactive, and combined sports. Interactive simply means that each player really has to be interacting with the others for the team to succeed. Okay, coactive, you're not necessarily interacting with each other. Okay, so the two extreme examples basically would be things like team golf. Okay, each player is trying to do as best they can. Okay, but you're not interacting with the other golfer in any way. Okay, so that would be the nature of coactive, or bowling, or any of the sports like that, where you form a team, but each person does their individual performance. Okay, interactive things would be like soccer, hockey. Okay, where you have to be constantly interacting with your teammates. All right, so then we have things like baseball. You probably could make a case that would be very interactive, although you may not have to perform every second. A left fielder doesn't really interact with the right fielder very much, okay, or certainly at any particular time in the game. All right, so there are examples here of true coactive and true interactive sports. So you may make a case again for baseball being somewhat combined. All right, football could be sort of in that situation too. Okay, but again, those are the three different types of situations. Okay, so and the reason I'm here again, let's take a nice little look at the bay again, is that what is probably the most interactive sport of all is crew. All right, because you're always working with each other at every single step of the way. Okay, if one person doesn't perform well, then it's going to affect the entire team. So at every single second of that performance, you are working in combination and cohesion with every other member of that team. Like I said, if it's football, somebody could just be not involved in that particular play on any particular time. Baseball the same way. Okay, your left fielder could just have a time where they're just not doing much at all. Okay, but with crew, every single second you're interacting with your teammates. So again, that's a true interactive sport. Not too surprisingly, why that is important in terms of team cohesion. The more interactive the sport, the more important team cohesion is. Coactive sports, not as important. Okay, so there's the other thing I want to at least get through right now is the idea of the different models that are involved with team cohesion. There is the Martins and Peterson model, where cohesion, performance, and satisfaction are all intertwined together. Okay, and there's which certainly makes sense. Okay, it's more cyclical that each one of these components interact with each other. Okay, but we also have the Williams and Hacker model, which basically says, wait a minute, you can have good team cohesion even without great performance. Okay, and so it's not as circular. Okay, there's more unidirectionality going on with the Williams and Hacker model. And there's a number of different examples of this. Probably the most recent example of this was the Golden State Warriors, this year, who had numerous injury problems, a very young team, but they maintained team cohesion even though the performance was not that high. Okay, have they achieved that? Because they, again, were satisfied. They were, doing everything they could. They were, putting forward, a great team effort, and they had a great leader, which we can talk about in the next chapter on leadership. Okay, and Steve Kerr. All right. So again, it's not necessarily the case that you can have bad team cohesion if there is not good performance. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to stop here for today for at least part one of team cohesion, and then we'll talk about how you can increase team cohesion either as a coach and a player. Okay. And we'll talk about the other types of models, the pendulum model, the life cycle model, and the developmental model in terms of team cohesion. Okay, so until then, enjoy the view, okay, and enjoy your day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.